Ah, welcome back to the Don't Panic podcast because I was definitely confused as to what podcast I was about to do. Just got done getting with it. But here with my partner in crime for the night, my friend Chris Mayer. Chris, welcome back, buddy.
What's up, dude? It's it's funny because I got a comment on one of my videos the other day, and it was "Don't panic" in quotes with a laughing emoji next to it. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of backfired on us, but
Still not. I'm still not gonna panic, dude. It's not gonna
yeah,
happen.
no, I know what you mean.
I'm not even on the trade Claude Giroux train, which that might piss
No,
people off,
that's
but I
that's
am not. I
no,
am
that's
not. Though I would argue most people are.
can't trade
And I
Jay
don't think
Littleman.
people. Well, I don't think people want to get rid of him. Nice. I
No,
don't think people want to get rid of him. But I think people want to rebuild, right?
yeah,
3 a.m. here. Thank you, Stan Lex the second. Bonjour. Appreciate that. Love the dedication.
yeah, it's
You must
amazing.
be
One
you.
time Stan joined our pod, and we did it at midnight. He's like, "Yeah, it's 6 a.m. right now." We're like, "What?"
6 a.m. is more reasonable than 3 a.m. Though I will say this, man, I'm also having nightmares about the Flyers, so I can understand why you're not asleep right now. They have ruined my life. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So let's get a readout for the sponsor. We have a new sponsor for the podcast. Thank you to Chris for pulling this one out. Butt ends is a new way to get a feel for your stick. Ever forget? Oh, that's a confusing sentence. Ever forget tape or run out of a roll? Butt ends grips are reusable and come in many different colors and styles, like the Future, designed for the player who prefers to feel the feel of a knob. That sounds wrong. With the added texture of a twirl pattern, the Future implements our new step down knob with the added twirl pattern to fit perfectly in your hand. That just sounds so dirty. I hope they didn't mean that. This combination provides the player with superior control of the stick and an optimal feel for the puck. Okay, that was like 50-50. And then the twirl 88, named after Eric Lindros, I assume. Designed for the player who is looking for peak top hand control. The raised twirl line built into signature butt ends. And all I do is think about like dirty things now. Butt ends tilling
Oh,
texture gives players an unparalleled feel on their fingertips and palms that increases puck control and performance. Oh, and they have them for goalies too. All grips start at $25, and if you use the code PHI, like in Philadelphia, capital PHI, you can get 10% off your order. Again, PHI for 10% off. Thank you to Bud Ends. Appreciate the sponsorship, and thank you, Chris, for pulling that one in.
yeah,
Hopefully I didn't just burn that relationship within 2 seconds.
yeah. That was. Let's not talk about it.
Let's
Yeah,
let's move past it.
yeah. Let's just get by it.
Let's plow past it. All right.
Yeah,
All right, enough dirty talk. Let's get into disgusting talk with the situation of the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, let's get into it. Flyers lose 7-4. I'm sorry, 7-5 in their first game after firing Elaine Vigneault and my favorite firing, Michel Therrien, French Mike, as people like to call him. I'd rather call him Michel. Man, what a weird time.
yeah.
But I will say, maybe the Flyers' best performance in a while, and not a good performance, but at least they had more life.
Better.
They finally scored some goals. The
Finally
power
put some lines
play,
together that we liked.
well, the power play wasn't necessarily the issue. They did give up a shorthanded goal, but that was really an unfortunate goal because Claude Giroux kind of took a weird fall, and that was more of an unfortunate thing. The penalty kill got its ass kicked in this one. But what'd you think? What'd you think about the game, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, some of it was a step
Start
in
at
the
the
right.
top, would you?
Yeah. Some of it was a step in the right direction. They got the lead, and then they gave up 4 straight, and that's a team that literally the day before, if they had given up 4 straight, if they went up 1-0, they would have completely crumbled. And that's kind of what it felt like on Sunday night against Tampa when it was 1-0 and then 2-0, and it felt like 2-0 was essentially a mountain, as Bill Meltzer kind of referenced it on Flyers Daily. It's last night I felt like there was more jump, which sounds weird because again they gave up 7 goals, 14 in 2 games, so obviously that's not great. I love the way they battled back though in the first. I mean, you get a quick goal from Lindblom, and then you get a power play, and then Giroux scores a howitzer to make it 4-3, and the game's closer. But I didn't really like their second period. They had their chances, but again,
But they went down. Yeah.
Right, they went down very early, and
Didn't score.
I didn't really think Jones had his best game either. And then the third period, they got an early goal, and thankfully Atkinson was okay and came back and scored, and obviously was kind of limping there. And I now there wasn't anything today. I'm hoping there's nothing for him. I think he's going to be okay. It might just be a bruise or something like that. But he ended up blocking a shot off his foot, and he left it 8 minutes of the second, came back and scored, and then that penalty kill. I mean, like the 5-on-3, and then Jones not shaking his helmet off was like, okay, like come on, like that's the one where I'm like, Jones probably should have just threw the helmet off, and blew the whistle right away. That penalty doesn't even happen. Flyers maybe kill that off. But regardless if that doesn't happen, and obviously it didn't, you have Braun. The Flyers won the faceoff, and then Braun fan on it, and then Atkinson fan on the rebound to even get that out of the zone, and then they score. So that was kind of just like it felt like the Flyers kept shooting themselves in the foot, but there still were a lot of things. I was honestly really glad that they scored that shorthanded goal at the end, because the Avs put their first unit power play out, which I thought was not the best decision, out of respect when you're up 3 goals, and the Flyers score shorthanded on them. So, it is what it is. I mean, thankfully they scored more than 3 for the first time since October 27th. And that's 9 straight. I mean, it's still a loss, so there really isn't too much positive out of it. I really like Morgan Frost. I thought he had a good game. I thought Hayes looked pretty good. Yandel and Sealer, that pairing was abysmal. But yeah, I mean, it's 9 straight, so it's obviously not fun when they continue to lose.
Well, I do again, for those who listen to Getting Gritty with it tomorrow, I'm going to repeat a lot of what I said earlier today. But I liked what you said there about the Lindblom and then Giroux. Obviously, Giroux carrying the team on his back again, especially emotionally. But that timeout that Mike Yeo called, we haven't seen a timeout in quite a minute. Never does. Probably should have several times this year when the team lost control of the game.
Even last year.
Yeah, and he never did it. I don't know how great AV was at communicating with his own roster. He was good at communicating with the media, but I don't know if internally, I look at things like that because the team had an opportunity to spiral. They're down 4-1 and then quickly made it 4-3 after that timeout. And it seemed like they got some reassurance on the bench that they probably haven't gotten for a while. And said this earlier on the podcast today. This is a credit to Charlie O'Connor because this is where I'm getting it from. And obviously he's closer to the team. He's there more than almost anybody at this point outside of Bill Meltzer. But, from my understanding, the players asked for Mike Yeo to stay. And I find that to be very telling, and probably why he's being given an opportunity to coach the team outside of just necessity and need. I think he's maybe the only guy who had a good relationship with the players at this point, where I think Michel Therrien never did. And I don't have any evidence on that, but just my gut instinct on him from day one, prior to him even being here, that he is not somebody that you normally want to play for. I think AV is okay, but I think at a certain point, from what I understand, and this is to Frank Saravalli, that the team itself didn't really communicate with AV. They more just he delegated communications to his assistant coaches and staff below. If Therrien is your communication bridge to the head coach, and they're best friends or very close, obviously,
Yeah.
you have a serious problem, in my opinion. And I think we saw that reflected on the ice, and we saw the offense degrade more and more. And it's not that shocking to me that they scored 5 goals once they got rid of them. Um, I think it was a mediocre performance by the team, but it was the most exciting game that I've seen from them in weeks. I mean, would you not agree, at least in that?
The last win, yeah. The Calgary game
Yeah.
was probably the most exciting since that one, and they gave
And
up 7.
yeah, and I, I think there's this, and I'm not probably not in the majority of this thought process, but I do think like I'm not as harsh on Provorov. I'm not as harsh on any of these
Me neither.
players. Well, I do think there's some. I think they're responsible for some of it for sure.
Mhm.
You know, at a certain point, I mean, I just saw a coach that was getting out coached like every night, and I've said this over and over again, like every yeah, me neither. Every night I saw him outsmarted, outperformed. Like every night, the coaches adjusted to his game, and they would shut down our team. And I don't think our team is completely devoid of talent. I think
Don't
the
you
only
just
reason we
love
got to the point we did is talent. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
don't you just love how the first game he's gone, he puts Lindblom on the first line?
Yeah, and I thought that was
It's
really
like,
telling as well.
yeah, like,
And because Lindblom was in the doghouse
yeah, for absolutely no
playing
reason.
for no
And
reason.
JVR was getting more minutes than him, and JVR has done jack the entire season.
Yes, I
Not
would
saying
argue,
Lindblom has, because obviously he's had his struggles, but to
but
get somebody out of a slump, you don't put him on the fourth line.
correct. I don't even think he was playing
Dude, he's playing
terrible
with
when he
fucking
got.
Connor Bunneman.
Yes.
Like, come on.
And Nate Thompson before that.
Yeah.
And then you're shitting on the guy for not scoring a goal.
Yeah.
So you're not really putting him in a position to score a goal. And if you remember Dave Hackstall, who was fired, he was fired right around the same time that Lindblom was being benched and being put on the fourth line. And I remember we had Martinez on here last episode, and I said, I was like, why isn't we said, why? We both said it, right? Why isn't Lindblom with Couturier? And Martinez, smart guy, so this is not a bash on him at all. He was like, oh, you don't want to put your best defensive players together. I don't agree with that statement, by the way. I should have called him out on the spot. Definitely don't agree with that. That's how you make a shutdown line. You absolutely put your best defensive players together, because then you can have a real shutdown line, and that's why you can play Lindblom against better players.
And it's not like they don't have enough defensive players anyway. It's not like like Lindblom and Cooch are the only two. Like,
right, exactly. But at the same time with that too, it's like, if he's so good defensively, why are they relegating him to the fourth line? Why are they not playing him? And again, I know he went through cancer. I understand that. But in the beginning of the season, he looked pretty good, and then all of a sudden, he's not being used at all. Now his confidence was like an all-time low at this point. I think the rebuild actually is not so much the talent level on the team. I think Ryan Ellis is sorely missed on the D. That's without a doubt, because now we're just venturing back into the same problem we had last year. But I think the confidence on the team is so low that you have to build that up, which is our biggest problem right now. And the only person who's really immune to that, and there might still be something wrong with Couturier physically, is essentially Claude Giroux, because Claude Giroux is the most competitive player on the team, and he's been a superstar for how many years? Like, is he really going to doubt himself? I highly doubt
he now leads the franchise in power play points.
I mean, he's right back up to a point per game pace. I think he's 2 points shy of point per game again. Like, with how much this team is struggling.
Yeah. Last night was his 11th career 2-goal game.
So, yeah, and he's not even a goal scorer.
No, he's not. I mean, he's able to carry the team on his back, and we've seen it before. We did it last year. Did it in 17-18. And now this season, he's continuing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I want to add on to what you're saying, because one of the biggest things where I think most people, we're not really making too big of a deal of it, but I don't think it's going to go away. I mean, Claude Giroux played center last night, and shout out to Isaiah, who brought this up on the podcast, the Getting Gritty podcast earlier. The Flyers have been lacking that. While Hayes is not at full strength for one. He's not a playmaking center, right? He has playmaking abilities. He is a big shot. He's a two-way center, similar to Sean Couturier, who's an elite version of what Kevin Hayes brings, right? He's a more talented version of Kevin Hayes. They're two-way players who play a physical game, can do everything. But at the end of the day, they're not dynamic centers like Claude Giroux was. And it's interesting to me that Mike Yeo put him back in the middle, recognizing that the team didn't have that element in the middle. You know, it could be Frost. I guess Frost isn't ready at this point, right? So they put him on the left wing. But quite frankly, I mean, didn't seem to slow Giroux down very much. I think we probably are looking at a season of Claude Giroux being in the middle probably for the rest of the year.
I mean, I was thinking that too, because I'm like, I really did like the lines last night. Like,
that's better than I have all season.
Better than all of last season too. I mean, I didn't like really any of the lines last year besides Farabee with Couturier and JVR, and that was really the only line because that was the only line that was scoring.
And he put Hayes on the third line, which is more appropriate for a guy who's missed a considerable amount of time.
Yeah,
than throwing him at top six.
Right, exactly. You can't just throw him up there and expect him to do anything. He should have played the third line to begin with. And yeah, I mean, I like the D pairs too, because you went back to what it was before. And obviously they bring in Connaughton today off waivers, and I like that move because I'm at the point with Sealer, like, it's nothing against Sealer personally. I don't know him. I never really.
I think he's probably a great guy personally. Honestly, I think I'd probably love him as a person.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing against him, like anything like that. Like, I just don't think he's an NHL defenseman that can keep playing games for this team right now. And that's why
not the way they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Connaughton is going to help. No, it's not. Because he was put in a tough situation. But if he's playing your first pair, I think that's a problem.
Yeah, no, man, it's tough. And maybe Connaughton can do a better job.
Yeah.
Because we know Ellis isn't that far away from coming back, but he's not coming. Well, we're most likely going to get Farabee and Ellis back around the same time, something like that. So let's say 2 weeks, the minimum, right, for both of them. So we still got a good amount of games. Right? Like probably after Christmas, the earliest, right? That's what it seems like. Christmas break type of thing. Yeah. So something Vasily brought up to me, and again, I wouldn't read too much into this, but I just thought it was interesting. The best season that Connaughton has ever had in the NHL was for the Arizona Coyotes, where he had 11 goals, 10 assists, by far his best season in the NHL. And it was under, guess the coach? Rick Tocchet. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean much outside of the fact that, you know, this team could still use another coach regardless of if Yo is going to be in here. Rick Tocchet, and I don't think that he's necessarily going to want to come in here as an assistant coach. I think it's unlikely. Yeah. But maybe Mike Yo might stay as an assistant coach here. And maybe Rick Tocchet brings somebody in and brings somebody to run the power play.
Or I was thinking this. Say Tocchet does come in and coach as assistant. He runs the power play like he did with the Penguins in 2016 when they won the Stanley Cup. And then you have a guy like Jim Montgomery, John Tortorella, somebody like that. And again, I'm not saying that's who I think. I'm just saying, anyone. I think that could be something that maybe happens. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different things, but I honestly think the Flyers might stick with Yo for the rest of the season. I think that could happen.
It depends how he does.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if they finish this month better, then
it's a lot easier to finish out the year with Yo. Take the off season, not just from like logistically, take the off season, interview coaches, start fresh, buy out JVR, which you probably have to do at this point. You know, move the extra dead cap. I don't want to call it dead cap space, but you move Braun at the trade deadline. You move some other guys at trade deadline. Maybe even trade Scott Lawton at this point, which I don't think so. But he would get you a really nice return, and it would get you cap space back. You know, that you have opportunity to kind of free up some cap space. Maybe they end up moving Claude Giroux. Though at this point, my attitude is you re-sign him and he retires a Flyer. And I mean that. I really do mean that. Like, even if we're rebuilding, we can't be devoid of culture.
Yeah,
It doesn't
unless he
work
wants out.
either.
Unless he
Unless I
wants out, that's it.
Right, exactly. If he's not going to re-sign here anyway, then yeah, then I'm going to move you at the trade deadline. If you're like, hey, I'm moving on from this team regardless, then yes, I'm going to get what I can. Maybe that's the case.
Yeah,
I really don't think. I really don't think that's the case. I think Drew wants to be here for the rest of his career. I think if anything, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. I think the reason he's unsigned is because of AV. I think in his look, they
that's a good
blamed
point.
they blamed Voracek. Okay. Voracek is a friend of Giroux's. They blamed how many players were blamed for the problems that these coaches, I don't think
All
they
of them,
created all of them.
really.
But again, I've said this to you before, Chris, in private. When you see a coach blaming his lack of success on the players on his roster, he is on his way out.
Yeah,
You,
and somebody put up a good point the other day that essentially when this whole thing spiraled of last season, like, and I mean the problems with AV,
yeah.
was when he called out Hart and the practice habits,
Yes,
and
and
that's when the
Charlie
whole thing.
O'Connor mentioned that as that being a serious point of contention
Yeah,
with the team. I truly believe that this team wanted AV gone, and
well,
I
they
think
didn't
it's
like playing for him.
I
That was
think
clear.
I think it actually started, and again, this is my own gut instinct. I think it started with Michel Therrien. I think first they disliked him, and I think that one happened quickly. I think it happened fast, and I think it slowly moved into AV because
As the
again they're
season went on.
buddies. So
Yeah,
AV's gonna take Terrian's side, right? And I think that's what we kind of watch. We watch diminishing of a smart coach
yeah,
who his team stopped believing in him, and I don't know if he checked out. I don't know what happened, but I watched him get out coached every night. I
mhm.
do want to just comment on this really quickly. Kanan probably means Ellis going to be long way. I don't think it's related to that, dude. You look at the amount of players who are injured in this team.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
either.
yeah,
I think
like
it's just. I think it's just to get a legit another NHL defenseman
yes,
on the team. Not
notice as what's his name? Glenn Denning has not been called up once, right? They don't really feel
and
that they have
Connaughton's
another
better than
guy.
Glenn Denning.
Yeah, what?
I think Connaughton's better than Glenn Denning.
Well,
But
yeah, he definitely is.
yeah,
But
and I don't think really anybody from the Phantoms is suitable for a call up, are they? I mean,
I mean,
I would have called up Zamula.
I would call it York, but
Well, he's hurt.
well,
Well,
he's got
in
COVID.
COVID, yeah. Um,
I still think there's a chance he will get called up by the end of the year.
Probably.
Especially if we're not
Well,
going
if
for
we're
the
not
playoffs
contending, yeah, if
and
we're
we start
out,
moving assets.
yeah, you might as well get Allison up here. If Legzinski can play, which I don't think he'll be able
I
to.
think they're shutting him down for the year, aren't they? Or did I
Yeah,
miss?
I don't
Is
really necessarily
we don't
remember.
know. We don't know. Actually, you're right. I think it's not. I think it's not purely defined. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Um, and Rubtsov too. Like Jamie was saying it to me on the phone, and I know you talked about it because he brought it up to me. Like this was his chance, and I agree because he's at the point now where like, what do you do with Rubtsov? Like
Well,
Radcliffe's a
you
guy
keep
hasn't.
them. You keep
Yeah,
them both.
yeah. I
We
mean,
have to. Here's the one thing. And sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. And
you're
I
fine.
understand where Jamie's coming from. I'm not, and I don't even think this is what he means. So I'm not necessarily commenting on
Yeah,
Jamie specifically because Jamie's more patient than majority of people who watch the Flyers. So this is not a comment on Jamie.
yeah,
My thought is like, even if you're like, I expected this guy to be out up 2-3 years ago, that is irrelevant to the team. Like,
yeah,
even if it is their time, okay, what are you going to say to Ruptop? How many injuries does the kid have? Is it because he doesn't have potential or because he's had bad luck? If he wants to stay here, he's a good AHL player
yeah.
already.
And he already
If
has a
he,
deal in the KHL, so
that's what I'm saying. If he's willing to stay here, you re-sign him and you go at it again. And if
yeah,
he can't stay healthy, then he'll probably make his way home anyway because he won't get paid as much here as he will in the KHL. And that's just end of the day, that's what's going to happen. He'll
yeah,
end up leaving on his own. A guy like Ratcliffe, I've said this over and over again, he is always going to be a long-term thing. He was
yeah.
always going to take longer, just like Frost is taking longer than people like.
Yeah. But
Ratcliffe is
he's
just
getting
going to
there.
take time.
And I really liked Frost's game last
Yes.
night. and I've liked it through really a lot of the season. I think he's actually been a bright spot, even though
Since he's been called up, he's looked like an NHL player.
well, they haven't won a game with him up here.
Not because of him, though, right?
No,
Not that
no,
you're saying
but
that.
yeah, no, not because of him. I'm just saying, he's been less. I think people haven't talked about him as much because they haven't won. You know what I mean?
There's also been a firings and all this other shit in between to kind of steal the show.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying.
No. I agree.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think definitely.
Yeah, but it's funny because there's a couple things that I wanted to bring up to you that I've seen on Twitter, and there's an NHL account that's it's called NHL Watcher, and it's just an account that tweets a bunch of stuff. And one thing they had said was this was Friedman on a podcast this morning, and there's two tweets here. So the first one is I think some other names you're potentially going to hear are going to be Tocchet, Tortorella, Jim Montgomery, maybe Green. That would be Travis Green and David Quinn. I think those are some of the names that are kind of circulating around. And then the other thing,
Claude Julien, I think, is another one.
Claude Julien could be one. He didn't mention that in the tweet, but that could be one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're specifically talking about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And then there's one under that says, quote unquote, I have to think, knowing Fletcher's history with Boudreau, that he was at least on the radar. That's off the list now, obviously, because Boudreau was hired by the Canucks. And then the other tweet is Elliot Freeman on the Sportsnet podcast said, I think if you're Philly, you got to be sitting there and saying, is it time to drop the bomb? And Jeff Merrick responded, the bomb will be Claude Giroux. Freeman then responded, or Provorov. So I don't really know what that means.
Nothing to me.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't think anything of it, and I'm not necessarily because I don't agree with both of those players. I don't really think there's any. Is there really any bomb to drop?
Well, Giroux is unsigned and is 34. Provorov is a 24-year-old guy that you draft in the top 10, and he's your best defender.
I mean, 3 years left on his deal. It's 6.5.
6.9, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't understand the point of moving Provorov unless it's for a top 5 pick. And
which I think is stupid.
Or this is what he's implying, that if you're really rebuilding, you're trading your number 1 defenseman.
Yeah.
But I think the odds of that are slim to none. I think Travis Sanheim would get traded before Provorov.
I just can't. Like, I'm at the point of like last night. Obviously, I texted you. I was frustrated, and I was saying, and I said to you, and I'll admit it. Like, I'm like, why don't they just blow this up? But then now I sit back and I actually watch that. And
don't panic.
Granted, that was before I watched the game last night. I just saw that it was 7-5 and I listened to the radio and I wasn't really too happy and I was pretty pissed. And I dropped a couple F-bombs on my car ride home from work. But what I will say is when I watched it, I actually was trying to let the fandom part of me set aside for the hour that I watched it. And I tried to digress everything that happened there. And I really wasn't that mad at the game. Like, the goals I was pissed at, but like I wasn't like, I'm not gonna say I was pleased, but I wasn't like pissed, if that makes sense.
It wasn't as bad of a game as the other ones.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Because the other game, I sat in the press box on Sunday night having to sit there and not be able to say a word when they're losing 7-1. Like, they're getting their tires pumped.
I mean, you can say a word.
Yeah.
Who said you're not allowed to say anything? Just because everybody else sits there all quiet doesn't mean you need to be that way.
No, I know, but I mean, but you know what I mean. I mean, like, cheer and stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of let it out. I just kind of got to sit there and just not.
Look, here's the way I am. I don't give a fuck about rebuilds. If people know me, I don't really think that they're very relevant. I think most of the time people are saying that because they have this fantasy in their head that you're going to rebuild and everything's going to pan out for you and everything's going to magically get better because you're going to get 1, 2, or 3 top 5 picks. Name me the teams that have done that have gotten out of that position successfully. You're going to find very little percentage of those teams. Even the Rangers, who have a couple picks, they had 1 year where they bombed and then got lucky like we did and moved up heavily in the draft. They did not pull off their rebuild because they tanked. Um, the the Detroit Red Wings have never did that. Even with Yzerman at the helm, he's improved the team. He's refusing to let them be at the bottom of the league. The Tampa Bay Lightning, what round was Point taken in? I believe that was the third round. The fourth round. Thank you. You do not need to tank to rebuild your team. Now, people can be upset at the players that were drafted by Ron Hextall and that it didn't work out the way you wanted. We also thought we were coming out of that rebuild at one point as well. I would argue you need a lot of things to go right to get yourself out of mediocrity. And for us, we did some good things, and then we hired the wrong coach, and we stayed with him too long. I think that's exacerbated the problem. I don't think this team is built to win a Stanley Cup, but I also don't think that they're built to be at the bottom of the league either.
But that's where they're going to start if they don't do anything.
Well, the reality is what okay. The one thing where I would like criticize or I agree with the criticism is that this team does need a dynamic element, like a new one. And I do believe in Joel Farabee being that guy. But again, he's pretty young, and Frost is pretty young. He's also injured. But, we don't have a dynamic center to distribute the puck outside of Claude Giroux. You can make the case that that's Sean Couturier, but he is a different type of elite center, right? He is a two-way guy. He's not even like Barkov, right? And Barkov has Huberdeau on that team as well, who is a dynamic, playmaking player as well. We do need that. But again, we don't need that to be competitive. We need that to win a Stanley Cup. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we need to fix what's wrong fundamentally right now. And that's where I'm not with everybody. I'm like, flipping the table and getting rid of everything and be like, oh, well, we're just gonna crash and burn until we rebuild, and we'll draft a bunch of guys high, and then everything will. I've seen that work so rarely that I don't buy it. I'm not saying that these people are ridiculous for suggesting it. I don't buy that it's going to solve your problem. If you want a Nate McKinnon or any one of these, like we didn't even get Claude Giroux as a top pick. Like you need to get lucky in your draft, unfortunately, but you need to build a culture that wins, and we need the right coach. Like we really do need the right coach. When we had AV in the beginning, he got the team to buy in for a little bit, and I would argue maybe now, and retrospectively, is because of the Lindblom situation that the team rallied around that and not so much around AV, and maybe that's really what brought that locker room together. But they need somebody who can, and maybe that's why Fletcher thought he needed to go out and get these veterans. They need a leader in that locker room, which I would argue needs to be the coach, that can bring that team together, make them believe that they're awesome again, and have them compete to a higher level than they have and believe in themselves again. And I don't think Tortorella will do that, though I don't think he's an idiot or a piece of shit or anything like that. I just think he is a beat you up type of coach. Like he will lay into our players. They can't really afford that right now. And look at a team like Buffalo. They lost all of their best players and they got better.
Yeah.
With a new coach. Okay. It is important to buy in to the system. I'd argue they'd be better with Eichel and with Risto and with Reinhart. They'd be better with them without a doubt. But they lost them, and they're still a better team than they were. We got to find a good coach.
Yeah,
like that. I think that's first and
foremost.
Go for? I have no idea, dude.
Like out of the guys that I just mentioned, Tortorella, which I know you don't want. Tocchet is one, and then you have Jim Montgomery, who I wouldn't mind, honestly.
Was he the one who got fired from Dallas?
Yes.
For being a drunk or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he's out.
I'd
rather have Mike Babcock.
There's Babcock. There's Claude Julien.
I would take Babcock over Tortorella. Same type of problem. Babcock's the better coach. both old
So
school
you wouldn't take
coaches.
Montgomery for what happened to him, but you'd take Babcock?
I mean, Babcock's thing was he made Mitch Marner right, he's better than in a piece of paper. That's the worst thing I heard about him. I
Really?
don't think he's a nice guy.
I
Is there
mean,
something I missed?
I don't really remember the situation, but I think it was a lot worse than that.
I don't want Mike Babcock. I'm just saying, like, John Tortorella has a short lifespan as well. Though I will say this: I think John Tortorella is a good guy.
Yeah.
I think he's a nicer
imagine him with
guy
our
than
media?
Babcock. What?
You imagine him with our media?
Yes, yes, I can. I think they would love him. I think they would eat him up. I think we would see a ridiculous amount of articles about him. And again, I think I would actually get along with Tortorella as a person. Like I think I like John Tortorella. I just don't think he's the right coach for this team.
My
Maybe
thing
I'm
is
wrong.
this though, like Tortorella, what he did in Columbus, he brought the most out of that roster, and they
Yes,
didn't
he
have
did.
as much talent. The
Yes, he
Flyers have a
did.
hell of a lot more talent on paper
you're-
right now than those
You were
Columbus
absolutely right. You were absolutely right.
That could be something that's like, okay, like if we're trying to win here, because if this team is in win now mode, which I think they are, then that's
I think they're trying to
something I
figure
think
that
they
out
will.
right now.
Yeah,
But
well,
look,
they don't have an identity is the problem.
if they hire, look, I didn't panic when they hired Therrien, and I knew he was a bad coach.
Mhm.
You know, I got pissed here at the end, but if people listen to me consistently, I
It's
never.
funny because when me and you were talking about it and we were texting, and you were like, "Oh, thank God."
Oh, that they fired him.
Yeah. When I had said,
Oh my God, can you imagine the nightmare if they fired AV and they made him head coach? I'd be like fire Fletcher. I would immediately say fire Fletcher.
Yeah.
And again, it shows that Fletcher's not stupid.
No,
He's not stupid at all. He's not
Mhm.
dumb. He's just more patient than we are. The reality is though, is Fletcher the right coach or the right general manager? And that's a question too we're gonna have to ask ourselves. And this
we're
is
at the point though. It's like how long are we gonna give these guys a? I
well,
think
I
you
would.
gotta get. I'd argue you got to give Fletcher more years.
I mean, I don't know if he has years.
2, the rest of the season and next year.
Maybe. I like this suggestion by my buddy Greg. I agree. Tell them to give me a call. My salary is only $500,000 a year, a lot less than the other guys. You know, I'll do a 500,000 to $1 million a year. Well, I'll get the Dave Haxtell contract. Let me know. No, I think Haxtell got 2 million a year actually. Yeah, let me know. I'm available. Thanks, buddy, for joining. But no, look, I think Fletcher, if he communicates properly with ownership, again, he's been aggressive when he needed to. He fired the coach when he was probably asked to, and probably when he realized, hey, this is the final straw. These are things that'll help you keep your job. But the reality is that if this team has no direction still, if they're competing and mediocre, and the organization feels like, hey, we need a reset, I think he'll have an opportunity to do that if that's what they force on him.
Like,
Then
did they need another blockbuster move like Ellis?
Well, it's difficult because Ellis is older. I think
like, you know what I mean, though. Like
I would say yes.
Than they had in a while, because I do agree with you what you were saying earlier. Like, they do need a playmaking center, and we talked about it before when Mert was on the show last week.
Well, that's why Claude Giroux is going to be playing center.
Yeah, and I think they need even more than that. I want a guy like Tarasenko, a guy like JT Miller, somebody that is a flashy name.
But JT Miller is not the type of player we're talking about. JT Miller is a Kevin Hayes.
I don't agree. I think he's better than Hayes.
I mean, his skill set is a two-way center. He is not a playmaking dynamic center. But he doesn't even always play center.
That's the thing. You put him on wing then.
I'll name somebody that I think, and again, I don't think this is happening. And I know why you say JT Miller, right? Or Tarasenko, because those names are actually like possible. But Rickard Rakell, right? I think that's really the type of player we're talking about.
I mentioned Rakell before, yeah.
Yeah, of course. You've definitely mentioned him before. We talked about him personally, but I think if you're talking about something that this team actually misses, like doesn't have, it is a guy who is a playmaking first center. Like, I mean, we're not going to find another Claude Giroux. Like, let's be honest. Not, we did hear Hurdle out there. I don't think he's available.
I think it's an off-season thing.
Right. I would agree if that is
But
happening.
Hurdle would be fantastic.
And that's a move where you're moving TK for Hurdle.
Yeah, if you're trading, yes,
that's realistically what you're doing. Maybe it is time to move Travis Konechny. Like maybe that's how you get your center. You move Konechny. You got Farabee. You got Atkinson.
You have Allison.
You have Allison coming up. I don't know, man. I think just first and foremost, you got to bring in a new coach. Yeah, I don't even think it's worth making a trade unless it's somebody unless it's getting rid of JVR, which we know his time is ending here anyway. And I don't really know how to get rid of, like we were talking about JVR for Tarasenko, like JVR plus. It's like, that's not happening. They're not taking JVR. Even for the only way, because you could maybe have a team take him for the last year of his contract, but you're eating his salary. You're eating a cap hit on it. And you're not getting anything in return otherwise, or you're giving up assets to get rid of him. Because the way he's playing right now, like, what are you getting for him, dude?
He's had on and off years. 18, 19, he struggled when he got hurt, and then
he looked great last year, to your point.
He did, yeah. And
especially first half.
Yeah, 18, 19, his first year back, he struggled, was injured, didn't really do anything, and then got hot at the end of the year. 1920 was in Navy's doghouse the entire year. 2020, 21 was one of their best players. And this year has done absolutely nothing. I mean, I forget he's even playing sometimes. That's how bad he's looked.
No, I completely agree. And that's why I think it's so important to find a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're really going to rebuild. And I'll be honest with you, man, I don't even really think that that's a thing. Like this whole tank rebuild thing.
I think it's just blown out of proportion.
Like the reason some teams do it is because they're broke.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're not broke.
And our prospect pool, despite what everybody's saying, is not empty. They just don't play for the Phantoms.
Yeah.
I mean, and the worst part of it is that we keep drafting guys that are getting injured, which is driving me fucking nuts. Like Jay O'Brien is always injured now, but everybody was excited about Bobby Brink. What happened to the Bobby Brink excitement? Nobody cares. Connor McLennan is destroying the WHL. We already know Elliot Denoyer is better. J.R. Avon, who we signed as free agent, is crushing it as well. It's like, yeah, we might not have that number one guy in our system, which by the way, most people don't even know if they're actually upcoming or not. But we don't have an empty prospect pool. If you really want to go out and get a top prospect, trade for one or trade for a top 5 pick. You have the assets. It'll cost a lot. Yeah. But we could have traded for Jack Eichel too. We have the assets. Well, we couldn't have thrown Konechny, a first, another, a prospect with it, maybe Frost and a third to get Eichel. We could have done it.
They could have. I think a lot of that too is more of where the player wants, and it's where the player wants to go too. I mean, he clearly had his options, I'm sure.
I mean, I think they got a good return for him. I don't know if they cared too much about where he wanted to go in that situation. I think Vegas works, but
but everybody wants to go to Vegas. Is my thing. It doesn't shock me that he went to Vegas.
Well, I mean, they've been the most aggressive.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they were going to pull that deal. Flyers can go out and make one of these big deals, and maybe that's what's next. People were shocked that we got Ryan Ellis for Patrick and Myers. It's it's not impossible to get good players, but you're giving up a lot of value. And I know so far it doesn't seem to be working for anybody that trade this year because Patrick is still injured, even though I think he's on the ice again, and I think he's close to returning. Myers has not panned out in Nashville so far, and Ryan Ellis has played 4 games for us.
He's got 5 points.
Yeah. Well, that he's never short of. And at the time that he got injured, though, our team was like producing points like crazy. Um, I don't know. Like, I think there is a trade to be made out there, but I'm not against it necessarily. Um, but I feel like it doesn't really matter unless we get the right coach. Like, it can't solve all of the problems. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
look at all the pieces we brought in here to fix the locker room. It didn't get fixed without the proper coach. You know?
yeah. And again, I mean, I said it before. If you went out and you had that overhaul of an off season and you switched up a bunch of things and you kept the same coaching staff and you got rid of all the players everybody loved to blame, then you have the same issues in the next season. That's a coaching problem.
Uh,
If you
That
get like that,
nailed it. You
that's a
nailed it.
coaching problem.
No, you absolutely nailed it. I thought Jake Voracek was the problem. I thought he was the
I was
problem. Remember
walking out
that?
of the game with Bill Meltzer, and I said, and he had said, you can't blame the guys who aren't here anymore. And I was like, I know. I was like, you can't blame Voracek, you can't blame Gostisbehere.
I mean, Chris, let's go back to you and I doing this last year. Didn't we say that last year?
Yeah,
And what are people doing this year? This is why this show is called Don't Panic.
they're panicking.
Because now it's Claude Giroux.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's Oscar Lindblom.
Now let's get rid of everything inside her.
Yes. Now it's Yandel's fault that we're bad. The reality is that
Can
they're
we talk
bad.
about that, please? What
We're
is
bad
it
as
with,
a team.
Like, what is it with the Yandel thing? Did anybody expect him to come in here and be like this wonderful defender?
No, look, the reality is that this is what happens every season, and I would argue majority of people are guilty of this, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. But when things are going wrong, people are looking for what to point their fingers at, and I say this all the time. It's easy to go, oh, look, that guy is struggling the worst out of everybody who's struggling. It's like, okay, but they're all struggling.
Yeah.
Like it's not ironic to people that Provorov looked amazing when the team was playing well, and now that the team is struggling, he's
bad.
struggling.
Yeah.
And then everybody go like Isaiah was just saying, he's like, oh, Charlie McAvoy is so much better than Provorov. Heiskanen is so much better. I'm like, okay, and this is what I said to Isaiah, and I don't agree with him. I mean, I like Isaiah and I respect him, so it's not like I think he's like crazy. I don't agree with him. He's like, Charlie McAvoy is running his own. No, he's not. He's not running his own anything. And he was like, oh, Heiskanen is like so much more steady. I'm like, Heiskanen is like on one of the deepest defenses in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's like if you give me Roman Josi, if you give me Kimmo Timonen playing,
and McAvoy is essentially all the Bruins have on defense. That's like,
I mean,
oh wow.
I wouldn't. Well, Carlo Koliak or not Koliakova, Brandon Carlo, he's good. He's really good.
But he's
Grizzlick is good. And but also I see what you're saying because he's the highest talent on that D, but they play well as a unit better than us. And like this is the Flyers' problem.
The Bruins don't necessarily scare me like as much as they used to because their problem is the same thing every year. They don't have depth scoring. So like
it's this, not every year, but now. Yeah.
There was a stat 49% of their scoring came from one line, the first line.
Yeah, the perfection line.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, and I saw comments.
Very true. Very true, Greg. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and to go off that too, I saw somebody had said something like the comment was just LOL, Hart is so bad. I'm like, what? I'm like,
this is my point. Is it not why aren't people seeing the pattern? When the team struggles, the goalies struggle.
See, this is the thing that people
they all struggle together.
Is that
they all suck together?
Yeah, and everybody will be like, "Oh, well, Provorov needs one good player or needs a good defenseman to play well." He played well with Justin Braun this season.
Yeah,
he's played with Ristolainen and he looked fine there. Like
the problem is
in a position to play with every other guy.
No, look, the reality is the team is playing poorly.
Yeah.
That's just the reality. Like, you guys can pick apart single individuals. You can pick on Nick Sealer. You can pick on Keith Yandel. We can pick on Max Willman. You can pick on Nate Thompson. The reality is when Nate Thompson was here the first round and our team was playing well, nobody cared about Nate Thompson.
Well, when the issues started to arise in the playoffs, everybody was like, "Oh, holy shit! Why is Nate Thompson always out against the Barzal line?" That's when everybody started to hate Thompson. When he started to get overplayed, and he started to get attacked because.
And whose fault is that? And who got overplayed prior to that? That was a target. Andrew McDonald.
Yep, man.
It's like these are coaching decisions.
Yep.
Why was Andrew McDonald playing top pairing on this team? Why would you even do that to the guy?
Gudis, Laterra. What a time.
Again, but these are bottom. Belmar was picked on here too.
Vandeveldy.
And then everywhere he goes, Belmar. Everybody's like, "Oh, but Belmar is so friggin' amazing." And I remember people shit on him all the time. I was like, he's great. Yeah, I loved him when he was here. But the reality is, the problem with this team right now is that they all suck together.
Yeah.
Like Giroux looked awesome at times last night. He still fell over last night to create that 2-on-1 that led to a shorthanded goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he had a bad game, but why isn't anybody jumping on him for that? If Sanheim does that or Provorov does that, he sucks.
Well, I mean, just look at the Makar goal. Everybody's like, oh my God, Provorov just got danced around. Did you see Couturier on that play? Did you see Atkinson? Did you see
they walked right into the zone?
I was still there and watched them.
Yeah, they literally Provorov is the only one who made an attempt. Yes,
at least
that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm emphasizing here. I really appreciate that point, actually, Chris, because hockey is so much a team sport that I don't even think people recognize how much of a team sport it actually is. Yeah. You know, you see these moments of greatness or a great shot or a great move.
Did you see the majority of it goal tonight?
No, I didn't. I've been podcasting for 3 hours so far.
He did the lacrosse move. He picked it up, flicked it over the net, and Milano batted it out of midair.
I mean, I would have killed for Trevor Zegras. I still love him.
Dude, Zegras is, besides York, Zegras was my favorite player to watch during that World Juniors last year.
Cam York. When are we going to see him, huh? Probably not anytime soon at this point.
Hope
so. I don't know. Not with the state of the team. I can see them keeping him away from the team, even though the fans fucking they can't win a fucking game either, dude. They're even worse. What are they? 3-9 and something?
They're that bad.
Yeah. Dude, they haven't been able to win any games, and they are decimated by injuries. I mean,
it's like
somebody played Forrester. I don't think you're aware. Forrester's out for 5 months.
Yeah.
He's out, guys.
3-11-4. Oh my God.
3-11-4. Great. Well, Allison will help.
The Utica Comets are 16-1-1. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The worst in the league.
This organization is in trouble right now, just for the amount of injuries that they have had.
Yeah.
Look, it might be a one-off year. It might be time to rebuild, whatever the hell that means. But rebuilding is really not that big of a deal. You just move out contracts, and then you wait for your window again. The reality is that if you're losing to get one player, you're probably not getting him anyway. You might get him, but you got a 20% chance at most to get the player that you want. So, the reality is, the Flyers have to fix their internal problems. However that happens, whether it's a new GM, which might happen down the line, new coaching. Remember where the Islanders were prior to Trotz and Lamoriello? They
had Capiona.
They were more mediocre and they were more mediocre than the Flyers. You got to bring the right people in here. It just is what it is. If it's not Fletcher, then find the right guy. Look what happened to Minnesota. You know what I mean? They were also meddling in mediocrity. You got to find the right GM. What?
Who was their GM?
Guerin. Oh, Fletcher. Yeah.
Chuck?
Yeah. Though most of the time he was there, they weren't they were a very good team. They weren't good enough,
They
but
were
they were
they were
highly competitive
essentially
every year. They were a 100
yeah,
point team almost every year.
yeah.
It's,
That division was also really good. That was when Chicago was at their peak.
dude, I would take that any day at this point to be a 100 point team every year. You know, at least you're a move away. You know, like Jesus Christ. And he went out, he made a bold move. I mean, he got Zach Parisi and Ryan Suter, both of which were exceptional at the time that he got them. You know, people can shit on him for that, but Zach Parisi was coming off a 93-point season on the
Suter was one of
Devils.
the best defensemen in the league.
Yeah, and he was in the finals. And yeah, and he still is a very good defenseman.
Yeah.
He's the guy I wanted in the offseason.
Yeah, he went to Dallas.
Yeah.
They're so deep one day. Heiskanen, Klingberg.
That's why I didn't understand Isaiah's comment where he was like, Heiskanen is. I love Heiskanen. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, but I was like,
it's the same argument. The same argument that like Makar and Hughes are better. Like, no, they're not.
I mean, obviously Hughes is not better.
Real goals.
I mean, obviously Hughes is not better.
No, because their team sucks.
Makar is the one where I'm like, I like, and again, I like all these defensemen a lot. If I got Quinn Hughes, I would be thrilled.
And I want people to realize
Makar is the only one where I'm like, okay, he has a future of being another Erik Karlsson. But remember, Erik Karlsson isn't Erik Karlsson. Everybody was enamored with him. He was phenomenal defenseman.
Yeah,
he's never that great defensively.
And that's not like Flyers bias either. I don't want people to make it like it's just like, oh, just because you watch it. Like, no, like I'm not going to sit here and say one kid, Makar or Hughes, you know, I just can't see how they're better than Provorov right now.
I mean, all I'd say is like, okay, imagine Provorov on a team that is rolling.
Yeah,
you're not going to hear what like we're coming here and seeing every flaw for a team that just can't get their goddamn shit together.
Yeah,
you know, you can jump on Provorov for that. You know, people shat on Braden Coburn when he was here, and Provorov is much better than Braden Coburn. And people shat on Coburn while he was here. That guy 8 minutes like a machine. He never got beat on a break the other way, and he went and won a Stanley Cup. He got us Konechny and he got us Konechny and Gudis in a trade. He was a very good number 3 defenseman. Like he's like Ristolainen, only less physical and a better skater than Risto. Like he's that guy, you know, and we just hated on him the entire time. Why? Because we asked him to do more than he was supposed to do. When he was on that Stanley Cup team and he was playing a number 3 position with Timonen and Pronger ahead of him and Carl playing on top pairing, and Carl was not as good as the other 3 guys, you know? It worked. We didn't even have a bottom pair. It was the worst bottom pair we ever had. Ryan Parent and Lucas Krajicek, they didn't even play. They played like 4 minutes a night. I'm not even kidding. Like they literally didn't even play. Like Pronger played 30 minutes a night. Like they just played those 2 pairings over and over and over again. It's like we need to play well. We have enough talent to compete. To win a Stanley Cup, I didn't think we were going to win a Stanley Cup this year, but I did think we would be competitive. From there, then you can make that big move, you know, and get that extra play. Go out and spend extra and get that star player you want to fill out your lineup. You know, but until you play well as a team, I almost feel like it's irrelevant. And unless it's like, you know, unless it's a fair trade and it's a hockey trade and there aren't many of those available. That was like the Atkinson for Voracek. which quite frankly, by the way, Voracek is better than Atkinson. I really like Atkinson. He's a better goal scorer. Voracek is a better play driver. You guys can get upset at me for that, but look at this team without Voracek. The play driving has disappeared. He was doing it. Sorry, he's not a turnover machine. I agree Atkinson's a better shooter. He's a better goal scorer, and I really like him. But there's a reason they made a trade, because they're like, yeah, we're getting one of the best puck movers in the league, one of the best right wingers in the league. And we all shat on him too. How often do people shit on Voracek? He led the team in points last year.
Yeah, it was every game. I mean, it was like
until we play well, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You can add a good player on here. It's not going to help. It'll help a little bit, but we're still going to be mediocre until we get our shit together. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I hope I'm not cutting off. I'm just pissed. 3 hours
I
of me
mean,
bitching about the Flyers so far.
I mean, who isn't, man? I mean, like it's
Yes.
hard to watch this over and over and over again, and like again, I've said it before,
Frustrating.
and this is the only hockey I've seen in my life, so it is what it is. But like, it would
I
be
feel
nice if
for
they
you.
could have, yeah. I mean, it would be nice if they could, go out and have. I do think they have the ability to go out and have one of those moves that's like, holy shit, they're going for it, like they did with Ellis, and try to get something going. Because I personally don't think this is going to change. Um, Internally for them to go on like some crazy like to them to win a cup, they can turn it around internally,
Turn it
but to
around,
win
but they're not built to win a cup. They're
no,
just
they need
not. They're
another
not
move.
built to win a cup.
Yeah. I mean, we saw they took the step in the right direction last night, which I know it sounds really weird because they lost 7-5. But if you watch the game and you've watched all of them like I have, what I'm talking about. And
They at least was competitive. Like when they brought it
well,
to
they
was
scored
it
goals is the biggest thing. Like they
when it
scored
was
more than
5-4.
one,
Well, when it was 5-4, you're like, okay, they could actually turn this around. And then,
Yeah. Well, the
I
timeout was the
mean,
best thing.
Colorado's offense is stupid at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the
All
other thing that
top
goes in their
shelf
favor
goals.
is, yeah, and it wasn't Jones's best night either. Um,
No,
and
wasn't his fault, but yeah, I feel you.
no, but there definitely were some ones that were like, holy shit. Um, the one thing I will say coming up in these games is you have New Jersey, Vegas, Arizona, and Montreal coming up, and then I believe you have the Devils again next week. None of those teams have the firepower offensively like Tampa or Colorado.
I mean, I think they're gonna beat the Devils
I think
on
they win
Wednesday.
4 of the next 5.
Don't get too optimistic on me.
I'm just saying.
I would love it.
I think they do. I mean, it's
My
not like
soul is
being too
crushed,
optimistic.
Chris.
They've just lost 9 in a row. I mean, what the fuck? Like, how long are we going to lose?
Well,
It's not like they're going to go into the streak of win one, lose one, win one, lose one again. Like,
well, last time this happened, and I said this on my podcast. I don't think everything's melting together. I don't think I said it on this podcast. Last time that the Philadelphia Flyers had a 10-game lose streak, it was
playoffs.
it was after Laviolette got fired and Craig Berube took over, and they had one of the worst power plays in the league. They were scoring about 1.4, 1.5 goals a game. Sound familiar to everybody? And who did they beat for their first win and then turn it around? The New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, I mentioned this when I came on Get Gritty, I think.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
I think so. Yeah, when they went 4.
You might have.
They were
Everything's
14-1, and they had a 1-0.
Yeah.
It all started after
Yes,
the
1-0 win.
7-0 loss to the Capitals, the line brawl.
Yep. The Ray Emery fight.
They got a goal early in the game against the Oilers. I was at that game. Jay Rosehill fucking scored. Out of all people, Jay Rosehill opened the scoring like 2 minutes into the game. Giroux finally got his first goal of the year, and they won the game. And I think they went like 38.
And he was a hard candidate that year.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah,
he started off the season without a goal.
Yeah. Bill Meltzer brought it up, and I had talked about it as well, and obviously you did. So
a lot can change.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to find. It's going to be interesting to see if Yo can be the guy for this team, because what Charlie was saying, and again, I think the players. I believe what Charlie O'Connor said, that the players asked for Mike Yo to stay.
I do too.
I do believe that, and that is very telling, dude. Because again, they're not children. Majority of these guys on this team, they're adults. And they're like, yo, get rid of this coach, and Yo can stay because we get along with him. But the other guys, get rid of them. We're not going to play for them anymore.
Yeah.
And that is a real thing. Like, people can get upset, but look at what happened in San Jose with fucking, what's his name? Evander Kane.
Yeah.
The players literally went to the ownership, and they're like, we will not play on your team if he's here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that AV and Therrien are that level, but they obviously lost the room, and they lost it last year.
Go back and look at the faces on the bench of the 9-0 loss.
Yes,
it's the fucking 1,000-yard stare.
Yes,
it's
we like, yeah, and I will say this, and this is not confirmed, and I don't even know how trusted this source is, but from what I understand, hearing that the players didn't like him last year, AV.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wanted him gone last year.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that before as well. I mean,
And Fletcher took the
it's
side of the
not,
coaches, and now he's paying for it.
yeah. Well, that's what
Life
happens
lesson to you,
when,
Fletch.
yeah, and that's why when you have a press conference a week ago and you're loving the coaches and you're behind them, and then a 7-1 loss. I mean, if I didn't see Fletcher for most of the third period in the press box when I was there on Sunday.
Really?
He was on his phone a little bit. Looked back, watching the game. Look back, he's gone. So
he's interviewing coaches.
I heard he hasn't started that. He hasn't started that process.
I don't believe that.
He said that.
I don't believe that.
He said it himself.
Hard. Yeah, that's hard to believe. Unless he's being fired, I have a really hard time. Dude, they don't even have an assistant for Yo.
They brought up Lappy.
Okay, so who's coaching the Phantoms?
Fuck if I know.
You see what I'm saying? He's got to hire somebody.
Yeah, but
like
when? Who?
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah, I mean, how much time now?
I don't think people are aware. Forrester is out for 5 months, guys. I've seen this posted a few times.
Yeah,
Forrester is out. He's injured. York has COVID as well. So don't get excited about Forrester. That's again, this is the continuation of this shit storm that we've dealt with this year, with the amount of injuries that the Flyers.
Yeah, we're forgetting. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be ending. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And Coots, what is wrong? I assume this supposed to be is. Fuck if I know. And it's hard to even believe that it's an injury, dude, because I watched him have a 6-point night with a torn yeah. So I don't know, man. That's why
I think we got a shoulder issue.
Look, dude, in my mind, this is all stems from coaching. In my mind, this stems.
He did look good last night. So
I mean, they looked better than, in my opinion, they've looked in weeks. The power play scored immediately. It was more effective.
Would you argue that they looked even better than they did in any game last night?
No, well, I think they looked better this year than the game last night. I mean, they played a handful of good games this year. Like game against the Capitals, they dominated.
But I mean, when they were down from literally from March 2nd, when the whole month of March started, that game against Pittsburgh, to the end of the season, that game last night, would you argue that is better than any of the games in that stretch?
Oh, you're saying specifically?
Yes, because they had looked like shit for that entire month.
It's tough to say because they gave up 7 goals.
That's true, but I mean, if you're okay, eliminate the 7 goals offensively.
The only
look a lot better.
I think they looked like a different team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they looked.
I think the defensive side of things was just baby steps of what they want to do with Yo.
He hasn't been able to do anything though. He hasn't even had a practice.
Didn't have a practice. Yeah, exactly.
So
we'll see what happens going into.
Look, Mike Yo got a head coach job in the past. It wasn't an accident. He's not like, I don't know if he's a good head coach, but I doubt he's bad. I doubt he's worse than what we had already. Even Gordon was better than we had. Quite frankly, Scott Gordon would have been a better head coach for this team than AV at this point, from what I can tell. So
probably,
I don't think the AV was ever the right coach for this team, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
easy to say that now, but
I'm not a fucking genius. Like, how are we supposed to know? We're not in the locker room. No. We have no idea how he's dealing with guys. The reason I knew about Therrien is because I followed Therrien prior to this. And I always said, I pray that he is never in the Flyers staff. And then fucking Fletcher hired him. And I was like, how the hell did you hire this guy? And then I'm like, oh, okay, AV hired him. But it's like, I would never hire Michel Therrien.
Yeah.
To be a coach on this team. Never. And like, after the things that I've seen about him and heard about him, never.
Yeah.
After the way I watched him get replaced both times. Like, if people don't remember the way, he got replaced in Pittsburgh, which, they won a cup after he was replaced, which I don't know if that's all his fault, but not
That's
surprising.
also the same with Yo. He was the coach that was picking out when they won the
True.
cup.
And then Therrien was replaced again by Claude Julien.
Yeah.
Who was his rival coach.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw that, I was like, does anybody fucking like this guy? I was like, his own GM doesn't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I literally
Did you see Vancouver might hire Bergevin?
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Dude, who knows what... Honestly, when I saw that Danny Briere was up for the job in Montreal, like, in the back of my mind, I was like, fuck. I was like...
Bring him here. Bring him here.
Dude, in my mind, if Fletcher loses his job, that's one of my top choices.
Yeah.
I would take Chris Pronger as a GM.
Yeah.
Like, look at what Bill Guerin did in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I want like a player, like a guy, like a fucking
Imagine
Iserman. If I'm in, what'd you say?
Hartnell?
No, I can't.
No, I'm kidding.
I cannot. I like Hartnell, but he's not general manager type of guy. Let me think. Is there a player that I think could be a general manager of the Flyers? Timonen, maybe. Well, Sammy Kapanen, maybe.
Forsberg?
I don't know. Forsberg too quiet.
Gagne?
Smart. I don't know, because he's not even around the game anymore. Is he coaching? Is he coaching somewhere?
Gagne? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's even coaching. You got to find a guy who's like still around. Nah.
I know he's still involved. Bernie Perrant. There we go.
Yeah, too old. That's a good question. It's actually a really interesting question. Like, is there any player that would make a good... I mean, my answer was always Chris Pronger.
Wayne Simmons?
Too young, but potentially in the future, yeah.
I've heard that he's a guy that people see him as a GM after.
I could see it. Sean Couturier, I think, would make a good GM. Mm-hmm. Let me think. Damn, this is actually kind of a tough question.
I think Drew would be a good coach.
No, I don't think so. I think he'd make a better GM than a coach.
Really?
Yeah. You have to be a really good communicator to be a coach. AV. Yeah, I think Drew would be a better GM. Yeah.
The 1,000-yard stare. Just going back.
Yeah. Who's a good like Keith Primo? I think he would probably make a really good general manager.
Maybe.
Man, actually, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keith Primo, general manager of the Flyers.
Roenick.
Were you around for the Primo era? Did you get to watch him really, or was that before your time?
I was born halfway through his era.
Dude, not that he was like the best
dude
player.
I missed every good year of Flyers hockey. You don't gotta rub it in.
Well, it's not just that. He was like, you got to see the Richards era though.
No, I didn't.
Oh fuck, man.
I started watching the lockout year.
Mike Richards would make a good general manager, I think, if he actually cared about working, which I don't think he does.
You know who some of our top prospects at the time were? Oliver Larsson, Ty McGinn.
Yeah,
those were guys that were playing.
Mike Testaweed. We didn't. Straka. That's because we traded all of our draft picks away trying to get good.
Mm-hmm. And I started watching after the year after they lost Yager.
Pierre-Edouard Bellemare would make a good coach.
Yeah, the first legit full season I watched was 13-14.
So that was after the finals. They had a good team.
That was the year we just talked about. The Oilers game, the win, made the playoffs, marched right.
Yeah, because 11-12, they struggled, right?
12-13.
They were good. Yeah, 12-13, they struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Bellemare is from the same area. Nice. I love Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. He's great. Yeah, man. It's interesting because like I was listening to Broad Street Hockey, and I really enjoy listening to their podcast actually. Whether they drive me nuts, but I do enjoy listening to their podcast.
You do?
They only drive me nuts because they're all over the place. Yeah, yeah. I've been listening to them for years. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but as far as entertainment value, they're definitely entertaining, and they tend to talk about a lot. And it's nice because Charlie actually has he's pretty well informed on everything, so he's always got like good insight from like the actual team, whether you agree with him or not. So because it's kind of like I listen to Jason Martinez because it's like Martinez and Bill Meltzer.
Yeah, that's why I listen to them.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to listen to Snow the Goalie before they spent 45 minutes bashing me.
I never listened to them, but
Yeah. Oh, what was I gonna say? Fuck, I lost what I was gonna say.
before they spent 45 minutes bashing you.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, I've been
Oh,
podcasting.
man.
Just so you guys are aware, I spent 2 hours podcasting prior to this. I'm on over 3 hours of Flyers talk in a row right
Yeah,
now.
it's like verbal diarrhea at this point.
Yeah, I'm losing my mind a little bit. Yeah, let's cut it. My brain's dead. Anything else we want to talk about before we cut it?
No, got nothing. I was waiting for you to say whatever the hell you were going to say.
Dude, I don't even know where I was going. I lost it.
You're like, huh? What?
I completely lost what I was trying to say. It's a shame. It might have been actually interesting, but it doesn't matter. Hopefully, the Flyers can get their shit together. I will say I do believe they're going to win the game against the Devils. I think they are on the verge of turning it around to some degree. I don't know. We're on another journey right now. We might be looking at a rebuild, but I don't know. I don't think so. My gut instinct tells me no.
Really hope we don't think so. I really hope it doesn't happen.
If you are going to rebuild, you need to start at the trade deadline. You need to move whatever you can, and you need to move assets over the offseason. You got to have a strong draft, but you already moved 2 seconds away in the offseason. You moved your first last year.
They're not in the spot.
They're on the spot. I think it's stupid to rebuild. You know why I think it's stupid to rebuild?
Because you want them to win a cup?
No, because they have Carter Hart.
Yeah,
you're gonna waste
like
Carter Hart's years.
You already wasted most of Coots' prime years. You already wasted Drew's career.
You're gonna waste Provorov and Hart and all these young players you have.
Sanheim.
If you really feel like you're that forward, make a fucking big move.
Yeah, thank you.
Like just go, like do the trade that everybody's talking about. There is somebody out there to get.
Yeah, you can't when you get a franchise goalie in a round like that, you can't expect to then continue.
I'd rather fire Fletcher too than watch another rebuild. Get me a goddamn GM that can fix it then.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see a rebuild out of Bill Guerin.
No, because they never really rebuilt it.
It doesn't really fucking happen. I've been saying it. People think I'm crazy because you just don't. Where? Name the rebuilds that you guys are talking about where teams tank for a bunch of years and then magically turn it around. You have Chicago who, again, realize that these are the rarities. And they didn't do it on purpose. They were just terrible. Yeah. They were just awful for so long. They didn't want to be. Edmonton literally would still be at the bottom of the league if it wasn't for McDavid. And there's one of him.
But the Rangers are nothing is the problem.
The Rangers didn't tank. The Red Wings also didn't tank. They were just bad. They were just bad. They were just straight up bad. The Rangers were bad for 1 year. They were competitive every other year. The Red Wings were just awful until Yzerman took over and changed the entire makeup of the team overnight, just like Lamoriello did. Like the reality is you need to bring in the right leadership.
The Rangers never rebuilt it. They still had Zibanejad and Panarin and all them guys. It's not like they sucked. They still have Kreider.
And they got lucky in the draft, and they didn't screw up their draft pick because they didn't draft a guy who got injured every single year.
The Senators did not rebuild. Their GM already had said that the rebuild was over, and then took back his comment. So
Joel and the Senators still suck.
Yes, they've won 6 games this year.
They have all this young talent, which they absolutely do, and they're still not good.
Anaheim sucks too. They haven't turned anything into anything yet. They're playing well, sure.
We're reacting to small sample size. Again,
Yeah.
the likelihood of you tanking and turning your team around, like the Vegas Golden Knights went to the finals with a worse team than they have today. The better their team got on paper, the more trouble they had making the finals. Explain that one to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to tank your team. You need the right combination of players and the right coach. It is what it is. Arizona has been in rebuild mode for what, 15 years? They literally got out of a rebuild and restarted one. It's like the reality is there's no one way to rebuild your team. There just isn't. It's a combination of luck and finding the right people. Keeping the best players you can. Is there moves that the Flyers can make, like guys to get rid of? Sure, I would agree with that. You know, and everybody forgets this easily. And you can shit on Hextall, but the reality is that we have the best prospect pool in hockey for like 3 years in a row, and it didn't materialize. So remember that,
because it was bad luck and injuries for the guys.
Because it's not a guarantee. That's what I'm saying. Like none of it is a guarantee.
Yeah.
Like the Devils have how many top picks?
Like what Joel's saying right now. They
still suck too.
Yeah. Sorry. What Joel's saying right now about Arizona, that's probably not likely that they're going to be really good in a couple years.
Yeah, Joel.
The same thing with Ottawa.
Do you know
it's not likely?
Yeah. Do you know how many top picks the Arizona Coyotes have had? Like how many guys they picked at the top of the draft and just didn't.
The Oilers for how long? Tanked every fucking year.
And they were all first round picks every year until they got McDavid. Nothing changed.
Yeah,
that was like a cheat code.
Yeah, traded everybody.
Again, it doesn't mean it won't work either. I make that clear. It just means it's not the end all be all. It has to be a combination of everything. Edmonton didn't get good until they brought Dave Tippett in, who's a guy I wanted above AV. You got to find the right coach with the right combination of players, right? And everybody thought Ken Holland was an idiot for bringing in Duncan Keith. Is he an idiot now? It's like we don't like. It's a combination of right things.
Keith's analytics are bad. Oh no.
Yeah. Again, I feel like I'm jumping on the people in the chat for no reason. Sorry, guys. It's just been a long day.
I don't think
Joel, this is the smartest and most correct thing yet. We need a Steve Yzerman. Like that's the reality. Like
somebody who doesn't give a fuck.
Steve Yzerman is absolutely incredible, but he doesn't tank. He literally does the best with what he has. That's what he does. Does the best with what he has. He made a bunch of moves. I mean, he traded for guys. Getting Ryan McDonough was a fucking ridiculously smart move from the Rangers.
Could you imagine
I still don't understand why they did that. What?
Could you imagine McDonough on this team?
Can you imagine Ryan Ellis on this team?
Yeah, that's true.
We traded for this like awesome defense. We got him for 4 games.
Fucking 4 games. Yeah.
We lost Kevin Hayes, who's still a shadow.
Thompson.
Our leading goal scorer got injured.
God.
Is anything going right this year? Is there anything that's going right this year? Zach McEwen. We got him for nothing.
The only thing I'll say about Connaughton is I'm hoping that the waiver pickups work like McEwen and Brown did.
All of the waiver pickups have been good.
Hopefully Connaughton can continue that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, if I'm annoying anybody, if I'm shitting in you guys, I apologize. I'm just super frustrated with the Flyers. It's not you guys. I'm just as pissed as you guys are. Yeah, the reality is that like I don't really believe. Well, no, it's also I don't really believe in any of these taglines. Like I don't really believe in any of that stuff. Like I really don't. I don't believe that this team doesn't have talent. You know, I've seen less talented teams do better. What I want to see is a real fucking leader in that locker room.
All they need is the fucking run, and if they get hot at the right time, anything can happen. Look at Montreal last year. Look at the Blues a couple years ago. Look at Columbus when they beat Tampa Bay. Look at the Flyers in 2010. I could sit here all day. If they get hot at the right time, and they have the fucking talent to do it,
right now is the time to get hot.
Yeah. Do it now.
I'll say that right now.
Do it now. Win some games, score some goals, and let's do something because
we can't fit Toes under the cap. Just so you're aware, he makes like $11 million a year, and it's essentially another Sean Couturier. Taves. Oh my god.
It's been a long. All right, let's end it. You're like,
dude, 3.5 hours podcasting.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know how Joe Rogan does it.
He doesn't sit and talk about a team that sucks.
Yeah. All right, now I'm just getting delusional. All right, thank you so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. If I was being harsh, I apologize, but thank you all for writing in. I'm sure you all have good points that I cannot even comprehend. What does that mean?
Aaron. PFH.
Oh.
My buddy Aaron. Assistance.
Yeah. All right. And that is my fart noise for the night. Thank you again to our sponsor. What are they called? Butt Ends?
Yeah, Butt Ends. And
oh, cool. I thought that was a joke. Yeah, Butt Ends. Really appreciate it. Oh, yeah. And Jim Steaks.
Thank
you, Jim Steaks. Get yourself a cheesesteak, guys. Everything sucks.
Yeah.
And cheesesteaks don't. So destroy your insides because your outside's ruined. Chris, anything you're working on that you want to tell people about?
Not a fucking thing.
All right.
I got nothing.
Flyers for the win on Wednesday, guys. They're gonna beat the Devils.
Watch them win 1-0, like they're 13-14.
Dude, I want them to win 9-0 at this point.
I do too.
Give me something serious. Give me a reason to live. All right, I need to sleep. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back eventually with more Butt Ends.
All right,
and
goodbye.
hopefully
Good
talk
night.
about game
over.
And don't panic.